Many years after graduation, Chase Chung had long since achieved fame and success. At the class reunion, someone tried to set us up. Chase, do you remember that little follower who was always trailing after you back then? Since you're both single, why not give it a try? He slowly raised his left hand, smiling without emotion. I'm married. Everyone was shocked. Only I kept my head down without speaking. I couldn't understand why Chase was still wearing that ring. We had clearly divorced 3 years ago. The class reunion was halfway through. The class monitor pushed the door open, exclaiming joyfully, "Look who's here," following everyone's gaze. My breath caught. After 3 years apart, Chase seemed even more mature. When greeting others, the corners of his eyes curved slightly, exuding an aura of seasoned confidence. I heard he was recently named the city's outstanding young entrepreneur, already worth billions at a young age. While everyone was chatting, I continued to look down and reply to messages. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Chase Chung take a seat diagonally across from me. His gaze swept past me indifferently, not lingering for even a moment. Yet I noticed the strikingly bright white specks on his shoulder, made more visible by his black trench coat. So it was snowing outside. My phone kept vibrating. The female classmate sitting next to me couldn't resist teasing. Song-yi, is that your boyfriend? Checking up on you so closely, even back in our school days. She had a loud voice. I instinctively glanced toward the diagonal front. Chase Chung was still chatting with others, composed and unruffled, as if he hadn't heard a thing. I shook my head with a smile. No, it's my mom. She's pushing me to go on a blind date next week. Everyone present was around 27 or 28 years old. Some were already settled with families and careers, but more were like me, facing parental pressure to marry. Several girls chimed in with shared frustration. My mom's so frantic about setting me up. It's like she's trying to breed pigs. As long as the genders match and both look healthy, nothing else matters. Nicole, I'm telling you, you need to keep your eyes open. Most good men are already taken before they even hit the market. Suddenly, a chubby guy slammed the table and stood up. Chase, do you remember that little follower who was always trailing after you back then? His slurred speech made it obvious he was drunk. Chase Chung remained silent. The guy thought he didn't remember. It's Nicole Ning, the one who bombarded you with over a dozen love letters and confessed to you in front of the whole school at our high school graduation party. It took me a while to recognize him as our class's P.E. representative, since he'd gained so much weight. Back then, his only hobby was playing matchmaker in class. And sure enough, since you're both single, why not give it a try? In an instant, everyone's curious gazes turned to me and Chase Chung. 10 years later, it seemed no one had forgotten about it, all hoping that Chase and I would give closure to this love story that had spanned their youth. No matter how the story ultimately ended, Chase Chung finally looked at me, as if it were only natural. When our eyes met, he slowly raised his left hand and smiled without any emotion. I'm married. Those 4 words struck like a bolt from the blue. Everyone was astonished. Chase, when did you get married? Why didn't you tell your buddies about the wedding? You kept it so secret? We haven't even seen a photo of sis on your social media. Only I kept my head down without speaking. I couldn't understand why Chase was still wearing that ring. But we actually divorced 3 years ago. Thinking back now, it seemed inevitable that Chase Chung and I would end up getting divorced. Between us, there was no proposal, no wedding ceremony, not even a single wedding photo taken. The year we graduated from college, his mother was diagnosed with cancer. I went to visit his mother at the hospital again, carrying a 10-pound fruit basket. As I was leaving, he suddenly grabbed my hand outside the hospital room. Nicole Ning, let's get married. His words came out of nowhere, like a pie falling from the sky, nearly stunning me. Fearing Chase might change his mind the next second, I eagerly agreed. The day Chase and I registered our marriage was an ordinary weekend. The civil affairs office wasn't crowded. The staff member taking our photo said, "Come on, sir, move a bit closer to the lady. Don't keep a straight face like that. Smile like she does. Good." The red background photo on our marriage certificate became our first picture together. After the vow ceremony, I skipped the girlfriend phase entirely and directly became Chase Chang's wife. At that time, Chase was just starting his business. To avoid a long-distance relationship, I gave up a decent teaching position at a private school in another province. Following his advice, I prepared to take the civil service exam within the province. Perhaps he knew he had shortchanged me. When buying rings at the jewelry store, Chase promised me we'd have a proper wedding ceremony once everything stabilized. So I quietly resolved to be a considerate wife and thoughtfully chose a simpler, less expensive band. After all, what mattered more to me wasn't material things, but Chase's genuine feelings for me. After marriage, we rented a 40-square-meter apartment together. Though the space was small, our life was sweet. We'd hold hands grocery shopping on weekends like any young couple and lose ourselves in blissful embraces late at night. A year later, his mother passed away. He held me close and shed tears for the first time. Song-yi, I have no family left. Chase Chang's parents divorced when he was very young. His mother, hoping he would become exceptionally successful, had always been extremely controlling. Many people thought Chase was aloof, but perhaps deep down, he was yearning for love. So I comforted him again and again, telling him, "You still have me. I am your family too." Chase began burying himself in work day and night at the company, using intense labor to cope with the pain of losing his loved one. Due to his irregular eating habits, he developed stomach problems and ended up in the hospital. From then on, I started bringing meals to his company. That was the first time I met Vera Chen. By then, Chase's career was already beginning to flourish. His startup team had successively recruited several like-minded alumni. Among them was Vera Chen, Chase's senior from the same computer science major. Vera had not only participated in numerous software design competitions during her studies, but also had extensive project experience. Chase was deeply grateful that she had resolutely left her job at a major internet company to join their team. I stood outside the door, holding the insulated lunchbox, silently listening to them discuss topics I couldn't understand at all. The heated discussion came to an abrupt halt. The two finally reached a consensus on some issue. There was an appreciative gleam in Chase Chang's eyes. "Good, let's proceed with your plan." I felt an emptiness inside. I had never seen Chase Chung with such an expression before. Lost in thought, Vera Chen gestured toward my direction with her lips. "Hey, Ling, your little girlfriend is here." He glanced back at me and corrected, "She's my wife." "Oh right, I always get it wrong. Not many people get married as young as you did." I awkwardly set down the insulated lunchbox. Suddenly, I felt completely out of place here. As I was leaving, I overheard Vera Chen asking Chase Chung, "Your wife doesn't seem to be in our field. What does she do?" "Teacher." Chase Chung seemed reluctant to talk about me in the workplace, but Vera Chen kept digging deeper. "I also have friends who are teachers in higher education. Perhaps they're even colleagues." "Is she a high school teacher or a university professor?" "She's still preparing for the civil service exam." "Oh, no wonder she has time to bring you meals." "Don't worry, it's quite easy to pass the exam these days." Yet what seemed effortless to Vera Chen was where I failed. Because I hadn't found a job for so long, my university advisor recently contacted me, offering to help me find one. But since the job was located in another province, Chase Chung firmly opposed me going. He lowered his gaze to skim through the administrative aptitude test papers scattered on the table. With a light laugh, as if trying to encourage me, "Song-yi, it's not that hard. Just put in a bit more effort next time, and you'll surely pass." I bit my lip, unable to speak. Chase seemed to have forgotten that I'm not naturally bright. Math problems that others grasp in one try take me 10 attempts to understand. I don't have many strengths, but persistence is one of them, especially when it came to pursuing him. Chase Chung was a prodigy, always ranking first in every exam. I'm an art major, consistently ranking at the bottom of my grade in every exam. Back then, to get closer to his school, I buried myself in practice at the studio every day. My fingers were blistered from gripping the brushes before I barely managed to get into the second-tier normal university next to his. Whose standard was he using when he said it wasn't difficult? Obviously, I started having frequent dreams. In these dreams, It wasn't me standing by Chase Chang's side. Instead, it was Vera Chun, who was more in tune with him and his equal in every way. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't keep up with his pace. No matter how I called out to him, he never looked back, perhaps noticing my prolonged gloominess. After our intimacy that day, Chase held me close and said, "Honey, since I'm not too busy lately, let's have our wedding ceremony, and I'll take a half-month leave to go on our honeymoon with you to lift your spirits." All right, just like that. I was easily comforted by Chase. However, organizing a wedding turned out to be far more complicated than I had imagined. Even though we hired a wedding planner, I couldn't help but worry about everything from venue decoration and banquet menus to the bride's bouquet and more. After all, this is the only wedding I'll have in my lifetime. Just for the design of the wedding favor boxes, I stayed up several nights in a row, putting in even more effort than I did for my graduation project. In the evening, I excitedly showed Chase Chung the freshly completed design drafts. He glanced up quickly from his computer. Okay, looks good." I hesitated over the drafts and said, "I really can't decide between these two favor boxes. Honey, could you help me choose? This one has more capacity, but this one is more exquisite." Chase was messaging someone, with a slight smile at the corner of his eyes. He still managed to reply, "Either is fine." Suddenly, I didn't feel like continuing the conversation. Noticing my silence, Chase closed his laptop, wrapped his arm around my waist, and had me sit on his lap. "Sweetheart, where were we just now?" I forced a smile and said, "It's fine. You go ahead with your work. It's nothing urgent anyway." 1 week before the wedding, I went out as usual to deliver lunch to Chase Chung. Just after returning home, I received a call from the wedding planner saying an important part of the ceremony had been changed last minute, and I needed to choose between two alternatives as soon as possible. Unable to decide, I tried calling Chase but got no answer. When I hurried to his company's entrance, I saw Chase expressionlessly dumping the meal I'd brought him into the trash. Vera Chin stood nearby, arms crossed, teasing him. "You really don't know how lucky you are. Your wife treats you so well, yet you're still unsatisfied?" His words sounded like complaints, but his tone told a different story. "Do you think I want to waste food? It's only because we were discussing the project progress that the meal got cold and became inedible." All right, I get it. This one's on me. Just tell me what you'd like to eat." Chase reassembled the insulated lunchbox. His movements were swift and practiced, as if he'd done this countless times before. Finally, lost in thought, he let out a sigh. Sometimes she's just too good to me, and that actually makes me feel a lot of pressure. In that moment, I seemed to smell the foul stench of rotting food from the trash can. I felt nauseous and fled in panic. Chase Chung called me several times in a row before, no matter when or where. If it was his call, I would always answer immediately, but this time, I simply turned off my phone. When he rushed home, he found me sitting on the carpet with swollen eyes, surrounded by piles of shredded paper. Those were the love letters I wrote to Chase Chung in high school. 18 letters in total, carrying my overflowing affection. He recognized them and immediately stepped forward to stop me. "Nicole Ning, what are you doing? And what's with the wedding? Why did you suddenly call the wedding planner to cancel it?" I struggled desperately to break free from him, picked up one intact love letter, and tore it up right in front of him, just like exposing our relationship that appeared intact on the surface, but was actually shattered beyond repair. I looked at him and said, "Vort bevort." Perhaps in your eyes, I'm no different from a little kitten, something you can beckon and play with when you need me, then coldly set aside when you don't. You don't bother to understand me. You're not curious about what I'm thinking. What I say doesn't matter, and neither do my feelings. Chase Chung, do you think marrying me was just your condescending charity? Chase Chung tightly gripped my wrist. Is this because of Vera Chun? Someone saw you coming to find me this afternoon. I shook my head. Even if it weren't Vera Chun, there would be some Zhang Weiran or Li Weiran. But he didn't believe me and patiently explained. "I've told you, she and I are just ordinary colleagues. We've never even been alone together privately. If you don't believe me, you can check my phone, look through my chat history, check anything you want." Seeing me continuously shaking my head, he finally grew angry. "Nicole Ning, Do you really trust me so little that you have to make a scene over such a trivial matter? But I suddenly calmed down. See, Chase, even at a time like this, you still think I'm being unreasonable. Sometimes I think we're really not compatible at all, and I'm the one forcing everything. I'll never understand the model algorithms and technical terms you talk about, and you have zero interest in the comics and movies I mention. You dislike when I touch your things without permission, and you never want to share your work life with me. If I exchange even one extra word with any of your male colleagues, you'll give me the cold shoulder all night. But Chase Chung, my heart is made of flesh too. It can hurt, it can ache. Even so, I've been doing my best to be good to you, because you once said, I'm your only family in this world. Yet, even after I've taken 99 steps toward you, you won't take that one step toward me. Instead, you avoid it, you retreat. My nose tingled with sadness, and tears flowed unbidden. Chase Chung, I'm so tired. All these years, I've chased after Chase Chung with all my passion. It was he who reached out his hand to me first. It was he who said he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. I believed him, and I offer my sincere heart without reservation. Yet, giving without expecting anything in return was like a stone sinking into the sea, with no echo of hope. I began to feel lost and insecure. I became jealous and ugly. I became someone completely unlike myself. I didn't know what meaning such a marriage still held. Under Chase Cheng's gaze, I slowly took off my ring, summoning all my strength. I forced myself to say those words. Chase, let's get a divorce. His eyes reddened, and his voice trembled slightly. Are you sure? Chase was such a proud man. Naturally, he wouldn't bow his head to me, nor would he try to stop me. I knew it. I watched as the warmth in his eyes gradually faded away. Fine. You said it yourself, Nicole Ning. Since you want a divorce, don't regret it. As the class reunion reached its later stages, a blizzard suddenly struck. Unfortunately, the hot spring villa we rented was up in the mountains. So I had to change my plans and stay overnight at the mountain villa with everyone, waiting until the snowstorm subsided tomorrow morning before driving back. While soaking in the hot springs, the girls chatted idly. I actually had a crush on the P.E. representative back in high school, but now, well, let's just say time hasn't been kind. Yeah, who would have thought the class troublemaker would become such a responsible father after having kids? Though Chase Chung hasn't changed much before or after marriage. Speaking of Chase, he wasn't even on our reunion list. I asked the class monitor and found out he canceled a project kickoff meeting to rush here last minute. It's really strange. In high school, Chase always kept to himself, and I never saw him close enough with anyone to specially attend a class reunion. I found myself inexplicably opening that familiar number. Over these 3 years, Chase had sent me only 3 text messages. The first came 1 month after our divorce. You left some clothes in my closet. Want to come get them this weekend? The second arrived during Chinese New Year, the year after we divorced. I brought some gifts to visit your parents, and I'm now downstairs at your place. The third message had only 3 words. Nicole Ning. Perhaps he regretted sending it immediately after, as what he intended to say next remains unknown. I didn't reply to any of his messages. The moment the official seal stamped our divorce certificate, I had already resolved to sever all emotional ties with him completely. If it weren't for this class reunion, Chase Chung and I would probably never have crossed paths again. After soaking in the hot springs, I said goodbye to everyone in the lobby. They had other plans for entertainment, while I headed back to my room to sleep. From a distance, I saw Chase Chung standing in the corridor with his arms crossed, seemingly waiting for someone. I walked past him without even a glance. He called out to me, Nicole Ning. I ignored him, lowering my head to open the door with my key card. But someone pressed down on the door handle. Chase Cheng's tone finally showed some emotion. Nicole Ning, explain this clearly. What's this about a blind date? I'm finding it harder and harder to understand Chase Chung. It's been 3 years since our divorce. What right does he have to interfere in my private life? At this hour, my night, all classmates had planned an all-night board game session at the game parlor. I didn't want to be seen by anyone, but Chase forcibly grabbed my wrist and pulled me outside. Nicole, let's talk. Unable to break free, a sudden surge of anger rose within me, and I retorted sharply, I have nothing to say to you. It's exactly as you heard. I'm not getting any younger. So what's wrong with going on a blind date? He didn't stop pulling me. I won't allow it. I laughed and reminded him, Chase, have you forgotten? We're divorced. This seemed to hit a nerve, and he snapped angrily. I know. Of course I know. After all these years, we've known each other. Don't I even have the right to ask a single question? I finally broke free from his grip. Before I could speak, someone else cut in. Nicole, Chase, you're still up? Perfect. You're still awake. The class monitor is still in his room, having a long phone call with his wife. We're short on players. Want to join us? Wanting to escape Chase Cheng's pestering, I quickly agreed. Little did I know he'd follow me like a persistent ghost. The game was truth or dare. A male classmate I wasn't very close with drew the question card, and I happened to be the one facing punishment. He didn't make it difficult for me, opting for a simple truth question. Where was I working now? After I answered, everyone seemed surprised. Wow, Songi, so you first taught at an art training center, then got recruited by a student's parent to work as a children's picture book illustrator at a publishing house, right? That's practically a career change. I really admire you. I hate my current job too, but I don't have your courage to start over from scratch. The class beauty, who used to have a crush on Chase Chung, remarked sarcastically, what's so admirable about that? What's truly impressive is a man and woman tugging at each other alone late at night. That's something I can never do. Chase Chung and I came here together. With the class beauty embellishing the story like that, it was hard for everyone not to jump to conclusions. Their gossipy, speculative eyes turned toward me, as if saying, Chase Chung is already married. How can Nicole Ning still shamelessly throw herself at him? I looked at Chase Chung, waiting for him to explain the truth to everyone, but all he gave me in return was silence. Perhaps he was still angry and wanted to punish me this way, or maybe in his eyes, having been married to me was something embarrassing and degrading to admit. That's why he never wanted to bring me into his circle or introduce me to his friends. I have no doubt that if I hadn't called him husband at his company back then, he wouldn't have even revealed our relationship to his colleagues. Eventually, the class monitor stepped in to liven up the atmosphere again. When we played the I Have Never game, the mood gradually warmed up. To avoid drinking penalties, everyone pushed the boundaries when it was their turn to speak. My best friend once shared a video of her and my ex-boyfriend being all lovey-dovey. None of you have experienced that, right? Bottoms up. Bottoms up. That's nothing. In my most lovesick year, I even paid for my ex-boyfriend and his new girlfriend's hotel room. A muscular jock spoke up quietly, dropping a bombshell. I've cooked for someone of the same sex. A quiet girl finally brought some normalcy back to the game. I have a daughter. Someone remarked, Hey, Songi hasn't drunk anything. Cheating isn't allowed. I could have brushed it off. But suddenly, I didn't want to. I looked straight at Chase Chung and said each word with vindictive clarity. I'm not cheating. The room fell silent instantly. Chase Cheng's glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. My goal was accomplished. The game ended abruptly when Chase dragged me away on the spot. Soon, everyone pieced together the gist of it. Chase Chung and I had been married, divorced, and after our divorce, I gave birth to a daughter. One by one, people started sending me messages. So Chase Chung came here for you today. Huh? Are you two living out a real life second chance romance with a baby in the mix? Song-yi, you better not take this for granted. A man like Chase Chung is impossible to find these days. I still trust my buddy's character. He's gone this far for you. So why not just forgive him? Clearly, these messages weren't sent just to me. Chase Chung waved his phone at me and said, Looks like everyone's really hoping we'll get back together. I turned off my screen and replied, Then, they're going to be disappointed. He smoothly poured me a glass of water, smiling as he said, Song-yi, stop saying one thing and meaning another. If you had no feelings for me, why would you have kept our child? Just a month after divorcing Chase Chung, I discovered I was pregnant. The doctor said that if I terminated the pregnancy, my physical condition might make it difficult to conceive again. After much consideration, I decided to go through with it. My parents were initially adamantly against me becoming a single mother, but just then, great news came that my old house in the urban village was slated for demolition. An extra person in the household meant one more apartment in the allocation. Their attitudes shifted instantly, and the baby in my womb suddenly became the family's little lucky star. After my daughter was born, I named her Joy, hoping she would be self-assured, confident, and optimistic. Joy was only 3 years old, but could already do addition and subtraction within 100. Her intellectual gifts were indeed thanks to Chase Chung. I stated matter of factly, because I thought your genes were pretty good. Chase Chang's expression darkened gradually. So, you use me as a free sperm bank? That seems about right. I nodded, tacitly agreeing. He abruptly stood up. Fine, very well. Nicole Ning, you're something else. That was the last thing Chase Chung said to me at this class reunion. I admit there was a part of me intentionally trying to provoke him. I thought with things having come to this point, Chase Chung probably wouldn't bother me anymore. Yet a week later, he showed up again downstairs at my place. Chase Chung glanced down at the vegetable basket in my hand, his voice laced with amusement. Didn't you say you were going on a blind date? Why didn't you go? Seeing that I ignored him, he added, I bought some toys for our daughter. Since it's almost New Year, I thought I'd drop by to visit your parents. As he spoke, he looked up. Your cousin is here so early? My family lives on the 3rd floor. I followed Chase's gaze. Under the red lattice window decoration, a young man was playing building blocks with Joy, occasionally lifting her high in the air, making her laugh continuously. Actually, Chase had met my cousin during previous New Year celebrations. Perhaps he didn't pay much attention, which is why he mistook him for someone else. I turned my attention back to him and said seriously, he's not my cousin, he's my boyfriend. Chase's expression twisted for a moment, but soon, he scoffed. Nicole Ning, that excuse of yours is really pathetic. First, you're going on a blind date, and now you have a boyfriend. Do you really think I believe that? The boyfriend is real. Being pressured to go on blind dates is also true. But I couldn't be bothered to explain it to him. If he didn't believe me, so be it. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my arm, preventing me from going. Neighbors passed by one after another, frequently glancing back at us. Left with no choice, I had to agree to take him upstairs. My parents were cooking in the kitchen, and it was Matthew Sue who came to open the door. He was wearing a white knitted sweater, exuding a youthful, boyish charm. Glancing at Chase Chung behind me, his smile widened even more. Sis, you're back. Then, as if no one else was there, he gave me a kiss. Chase Chang's face instantly darkened. Matthew Sue was definitely doing it on purpose, because he immediately put on the airs of the official boyfriend and poured tea for Chase. I know you, ex-husband bro. Joy was playing with her wiggle car in the living room. Chase tried to salvage some dignity, picking up the rabbit plushie from the shopping bag and squatting down in front of her. Joy, I'm your dad. Come on, call me dad. Under his repeated urging, Joy burst into tears. She grabbed the rabbit plushie by its ears and started hitting him randomly. Wah, you're not. Wah, whoever treats mom well is my dad. Chase Chung was caught off guard by the hitting. Even though Joy wasn't using much force, he slumped to the ground as if deflated. Matthew Sue, not one to avoid stirring trouble, picked up Joy and asked while comforting her, Joy, how about letting me be your dad? Joy gradually stopped sobbing and said in her childish voice, okay. The air seemed to crackle with countless tiny sparks. Whenever these two men locked eyes, the tension would crackle loudly. Before the atmosphere could grow more intense, I said to Chase Chung, you've seen our daughter, delivered what you came to deliver. You can leave now. He glanced at Joy, suppressing his voice through gritted teeth. Ning Nicole, are you in such a rush to ditch me because you can't wait to get cozy with your little boyfriend? Just then, my mom came out from the kitchen. Since it's the new year, why don't you stay for lunch? Chase Chung readily agreed. While heading to the restroom, my mom pulled me aside. Sure enough, she started urging me to get back together with Chase. Nicole, you're still young. Listen to your mother. Marriage requires mutual tolerance and understanding. Don't be so stubborn. If you don't want someone with Chase's qualities, others are lining up for him. You'll regret it someday. Didn't you say Xiao Su is going abroad after the holidays? Are you really going to do long distance? Do you honestly think, with your age difference and you having a daughter, that you two have a future? I can see Chase is willing to reconcile. I won't push you to date others anymore, but think it over carefully. If not for yourself, then for Joy's sake. See, even my parents, everyone thinks I'm making a foolish mistake. They don't understand why I insisted on divorcing Chase when he never committed any fundamental wrongs in our marriage. They couldn't understand why I stubbornly held my ground when Chase Chung, now successful and accomplished, came back asking to reconcile. In their eyes, Chase was the brilliant scholar, the successful son, in law, the compatible colleague, the wealthy boss. But in my life, he was nothing but a cold and selfish husband. Yet Matthew Su was different. He was the first to show me another possibility in an intimate relationship, that love could also be equal, healthy, and passionate. I first met Matthew Su in a bookstore. Every weekend, I loved spending time there, watching children engrossed in reading my picture books, my heart brimming with happiness. But that day, a grown-up visitor arrived. Back when I used to doodle casually, Chase Chung had repeatedly told me, "Nicole Ning, how can you still be so childish at your age?" So, I naturally felt a sense of shame when adults read my children's picture books. Yet, this young man before me seemed to genuinely enjoy them. He even bought the entire set of my picture books on the spot. And that's how I remembered him. Later, he came to intern at our publishing house. That's when I learned his name was Matthew Su, a senior majoring in English literature at Chase Chang's University. Since his graduation project focused on translating children's literature, he volunteered to be my assistant, helping translate my picture books for overseas distribution. Matthew Su always seemed to understand my quirky and imaginative ideas. For instance, the story of a rabbit without ears finding an egg, or the tale of a crocodile born into a family of ducks. One day, while reading my manuscript, he came across Miss Brown Bear, who was so hungry she looked utterly wretched, asking for directions everywhere to find the honey mountain the bees had mentioned. Mr. Cat told her Honey Mountain was beside Milk Lake. Miss Dog said it was near Bone Tower, and Mrs. Crow claimed she had to cross Bread Bridge. Wait, he suddenly realized. So, there was no Honey Mountain at all. Miss Brown Bear had been tricked. I bit my pen, letting my thoughts wander freely. Maybe there really is one, as long as she keeps climbing and climbing, up to the highest hill. After the summer internship ended, Matthew Su started pursuing me directly. Upon learning I had a daughter, he didn't back away, but instead said, "What I like is your interesting soul, regardless of age or any other status." I had long known Matthew Su was going abroad to study, so from the very beginning, I never intended to be with this guy, 5 years younger than me, until he said he was willing to stay for me. I refused even more firmly, so he settled for second best. Then, let's just be together until winter break. Sis, I don't ask for much. Just give me 3 months, he said with a bitter tone. You're my first love. After all, it became hard to say no again. Actually, deep down I knew I had already fallen for him, so I agreed. 3 months it was, just right, leaving no regrets for each other. After dinner, Mom and Dad took Joy out for a walk. Matthew Su mysteriously pulled me into the bedroom and handed me a photo, like presenting a treasure. Sis, look, doesn't this count as my exclusive wedding photo? Half a month ago, a friend dragged me to a portrait studio to take artistic photos. During a break, Matthew Su came to pick me up. He borrowed a veil from the next studio and secretly pinned it to my bun. At that time, I was completely unaware. He called my name and pressed the shutter the moment I turned my head. I never told Matthew Su the details of my relationship with Chase Chung. Naturally, he wouldn't know that this was my first wedding photo in life. The girl in the photo had a sparkle in her eyes, with a bright and radiant smile. It turns out that love is something that, even if you cover your mouth, will still escape through your eyes. Lost in thought, Matthew Su leaned on the table and awkwardly kiss me, lowering his head. Feeling my response, he accidentally bumped his knee against the chair. Chase Chang's voice suddenly sounded outside the door. "Nicole Ning, what are you doing in there?" Matthew Sue and I were kissing passionately in the room. The knocking on the door outside continued incessantly. At that moment, I had only one thought. Why hasn't Chase left yet? So annoying. Later, Chase's knocking became so loud it was almost disturbing the neighbors. Only then did Matthew Sue release me. He unlocked the door and licked his lips impatiently. "Ex-husband bro, sis and I are officially dating. What do you think we're doing?" Chase looked at my swollen lips, and his eyes turned red too. He pushed Matthew aside recklessly and barged into my bedroom. On the bookshelf directly facing my doorway stood a full row of newly arrived English picture book proofs. Matthew Sue's and my names were written side by side in the most prominent position. He averted his gaze as if to escape, only to land on the photo on the table. He stared transfixed at my dazzlingly bright smile in the photo, speaking only after a long while. This was the first time I'd ever seen him so humble. "Songy, I overheard your mother's conversation with you. Your little boyfriend is going abroad soon, and Joy is still young. She shouldn't grow up without a father's love. I know you're still in the honeymoon phase and won't listen to me, but that's fine. I can." He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself, and said, "I can wait for you two to break up." Matthew Sue let out a light scoff. "Ex-husband bro, wake up. Sister stopped loving you long ago, even if you're willing to be the other man for love. She doesn't want you." Chase Chung didn't bother me again until after the new year, and just 2 days ago, Matthew Sue flew to the United States to study. Before parting, we shared a kiss at the airport, and I tasted his salty, bitter tears. He whispered in my ear, "Thank you, sister, for these 3 months. They made me very happy. Let me tell you a secret. I fell in love with you at first sight." A sharp pain shot through my heart. I guess I overestimated myself. I couldn't bring myself to bid him farewell as calmly as I'd imagined, but I had to pull myself together and prepare for the award selection at the Bologna Children's Book Fair in Italy. Yet, shortly after getting in the car, Chase started calling me incessantly. By the 10th call, I couldn't resist answering and snapped at him. "Chase, what's wrong with you now?" He growled. "Nicole, don't you dare leave. Stop the car." I couldn't make sense of his bewildering words. Glancing up at the rearview mirror, I froze. Chase was driving his black SUV, frantically chasing after my car. "Chase, what are you doing? Are you insane?" He swerved sharply, overtaking another car. "I am insane, and if I am, you'll stay for me." Before the words had fully left my mouth, a loud crash echoed from behind. The black SUV was no longer visible in the rearview mirror. I quickly asked the driver to pull over to the side of the road. Sure enough, Chase Chung had gotten into an accident. Fortunately, the car crash wasn't too severe. Chase had only swerved sharply to avoid a pedestrian and crashed into the guardrail. After calling 120 for him, I prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, he frantically pushed the car door open and collapsed his knees on the ground. Blood was streaming from his forehead, but he grabbed onto me, his eyes filled with pleading, like an unwanted dog. "Songy, I regret it. I've regretted it for a long time. Please, don't go with him, okay?" It was then that I realized Chase seemed to have misunderstood something, but he soon passed out and was lifted onto a stretcher by the arriving ambulance. Of course, I still left. After all, this competition and award were crucial to me. When I returned to the country a week later, out of humanity, I paid a symbolic visit to him in the hospital. Chase Chung sat on the bed with a fractured leg and bandages wrapped around his head, asking me listlessly, "You're back? Where's your little boyfriend?" I replied calmly, "We broke up." The cup in his hand slipped, spilling water on the quilt and soaking a patch. Chase uttered a casual, "Oh," but his spirits instantly lifted, the delight at the corners of his eyes and brows impossible to conceal. A couple of days later, I received a call from the nurse's station after work. "Hello, are you Mr. Chang's family member? The patient has a rehabilitation session today and requires family accompaniment." From then on, I received several similar calls each week. I had even learned to anticipate the message. Okay, got it. I had seen Chase's ex, Ray's. His fracture wasn't severe, yet it hadn't healed properly. To help, my mom specially stewed pork bones for me to bring him as a tonic. But it seemed my mom had come to a realization, deciding to tackle my marriage prospects from multiple angles. Lately, she's been planning to introduce me to the son of one of her old classmates. Upon learning that this blind date was a doctor working right next to Chase Chang's hospital building, I didn't refuse. I happened to have something I wanted to verify. So I deliberately set the meeting place at the coffee shop downstairs in the hospital building. This Dr. Song is 3 years older than me and had a wife who passed away due to complications during childbirth. He had been unwilling to remarry all these years and only agreed to meet me under pressure from his parents. This put my mind at ease, freeing me from any psychological burden. Before long, Chase Chin called. "Songy, why aren't you at the rehab department? Where did you go?" I calmly took a sip of tea and said, "I'm on a blind date at the coffee shop downstairs. I'll be up later." Then I opened the stopwatch on my phone. When the timer reached 4 minutes and 32 seconds, Chase Chung appeared, panting and leaning on his crutches. I had calculated earlier that for someone with limited mobility, this distance should take at least 10 minutes to cover. Chase Chang's fracture had indeed healed long ago. He had been faking it all along. I glared at him, raising the timer with a sarcastic tone. "Wow, is this a medical miracle happening?" He suddenly clutched his stomach, his voice weak. "Songy, I don't feel so well." I no longer believed his words. Chase, using the same trick once or twice is enough. His lips turned pale as he reached out toward me, but before he could reach me, he collapsed to the floor. Chase had been suffering from stomach issues for years. I repeatedly reminded him, yet he still didn't eat on time. Now it's come to this, finally developing into stomach cancer. Fortunately, it's mid-stage stomach cancer, not yet beyond treatment. After surgery to remove part of the affected area, Chase seemed to age considerably in an instant. When I visited him, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling and murmuring, "These past few days, it feels like I've suddenly understood many things. My heart seems to have been sick for a very long time. I always wanted to test your love by pushing you away again and again, yet when you held me tight, I couldn't believe I deserved to be loved. So I retreated time after time, fell silent repeatedly, and hurt you deeply." As he spoke, his voice began to choke up. "Song-yi, all these years, I've wronged you. I was terribly mistaken, and this is my retribution, what I deserve. I brought it upon myself. I deserve to die, even though Chase Chung had once hurt me deeply. But at this moment, I didn't feel the satisfaction of revenge. On the contrary, my heart felt as heavy as if a stone were pressing on it. I waved my hand and said, "Enough. Focus on your treatment and don't overthink it." Chase Chung pointed to the metal box under the bed, signaling me to open it. It turned out to contain 18 love letters, stiffened and mended with transparent tape. "Song-yi, I fixed them up. I thought I could fix everything." I took out one of them, holding this naive yet fervent love up to the sunlight. It immediately appeared riddled with holes. "Chase, look, no matter how hard you try to restore something that's already broken, cracks are inevitable." He let out a long sigh. "Yes, you're right. Perhaps this was the first time Chase realized we truly couldn't go back to how we were." As I was leaving the hospital, I unexpectedly ran into an acquaintance. Vera Chen was pregnant. Her blonde, blue-eyed husband helping her down the stairs. She recognized me too. After saying a few words to her husband, she walked over to me. "Hi, Songy, long time no see." 3 years later, I could finally look her in the eye and greet her naturally, no longer burdened by that inexplicable sense of inferiority. It turned out Vera had voluntarily left the company after Chase and I divorced. Though Chase never said it, she could sense the blame in his eyes when he looked at her. After all, on the day Chase Chung and I had our big argument, Vera Chen really did pull him aside to discuss project progress, causing him to miss mealtime, and I happened to see him dumping the food. She didn't feel good about it herself, and later even blamed herself, so much that she went to see a psychologist over this incident. Alright, don't look at me with those guilty eyes. If it weren't for that incident, I wouldn't have met my current husband. Hearing her say that, I felt even more embarrassed and apologized to her, admitting that I had once been jealous of her. Oh, darling, don't say that. I wish you'd use a different word. What word? Admire. I'd much prefer you to tell me that you greatly admire me. When we talked about Chase Chang's recent situation, Vera Chen wasn't surprised at all. He brought it upon himself. A classic case of avoidant attachment personality due to lack of love in childhood, selfish and contradictory, only caring about his own feelings, not his partner's, and hardly ever compromising for them. In summary, if you love him, he won't love you. If you don't love him, he'll love you desperately. All I can say is, it's a good thing you escaped that misery in time. In the end, we exchanged contact information. When my baby is born, don't forget to send him a set of your children's picture books. She waved goodbye to me, playfully winking. By the way, I want signed copies. Chase Chung underwent a year of post-operative chemotherapy and has basically recovered. The doctor said as long as he takes care of himself and doesn't do anything reckless, he could live to a ripe old age. But he seems to have developed an addiction to self-punishment before being discharged. He hesitantly mentioned he'd had another minor surgery. Later, I found out he had gotten a vasectomy. He also took the opportunity to have a lawyer draft a will early on, leaving all his assets to me and our daughter. During our last meeting, he held on to me and asked softly, Song-yi, is there really no chance for us at all? But before I could answer, he continued on his own. Never mind. Don't say anything. At least let me hold on to some hope. 2 years later, at the publishing house, everyone instinctively clasped their hands together as if performing some eerie ritual. I looked up from my drawing and couldn't help but ask, what are you all doing? They replied, the Hans Christian Andersen Award shortlist is about to be announced. We're all nervous wrecks. While the person involved remained so calm, someone even started reverse jinxing. After all, it's the Nobel Prize of Children's Literature. Not many illustrators from our country even get nominated, so chances are slim. The main thing is we participated. At that moment, a voice rang out. The results are out. Everyone erupted in excitement. How did it go? How did it go? Tell us already. Don't keep us in suspense. Of course, you made the shortlist. In that moment, it felt like a dream. Before I could even jump up in excitement, everyone rushed over, cheering as they tossed me into the air. My childhood dream was simple. While everyone else dreamed of becoming scientists or astronauts, I only wanted to bring joy to every child. Perhaps I still have a long way to go, but I'm certain I'm already on the path. Late at night, a delivery guy came in holding a bouquet of flowers. Nicole Ning. Who's Nicole Ning? Someone sent you flowers. Come sign for them. Everyone started teasing. The language of hydrangeas is gathering and reunion. Nicole, who sent these to you? Following everyone's gaze, I picked it up and saw the elegantly flowing handwriting that read, congratulations to my little brown bear for finding her honey mountain. My heart began to race as I quickly asked the delivery guy, where's the person who sent the flowers? Have they already left? The delivery guy replied, no, they're still waiting for you outside. I rushed outside immediately. Someone stood in the night, arms open wide toward me, as I threw myself into Matthew Sue's embrace. I remembered something Vera Chen once told me. Nicole, good love helps people grow. Congratulations. It seems you've met the right person.